Let's normalise deep conversations that don't need to be heavy. Surface level was so 5 years ago, so grab a cuppa, get comfy and let's chat. Tea Talk with Chelsea. Welcome, this is our first episode of Tea Talk. So I have my cup of tea, don't know if Raniera does, but that's fine. I wanted to create this to just start normalizing these types of conversations just between friends or people around you, and just checking in or understanding others' perspectives, and just really normalizing what this looks like. So welcome, thank you so much for joining me and having this time with us. So firstly, I guess just introducing yourself and who you are, where you came from, whatever you want to say. That's up to you. Get into it.
Awesome, Chelsea. My name is Rewiri, born and bred here in Slice of Paradise of Whakatane, where I currently reside at the moment with my wahine, my wife, and our baby boy. And just been on a bit of a journey over the last 6 to 8 years, I suppose, of personal growth, of development, of getting to understand myself better and building that intimate relationship with myself through being more aware of the thoughts that I have, the feelings that I experience, and the things that I do. And there was a time in my life where the results that I was having, or the circumstances that I was in, they weren't necessarily the best in that particular time in my life. And so it got to a point where I needed to make decisions and ultimately have the power within my hands to make the changes. And so I did, attending seminars, putting myself in different environments, being around other people, getting into things like meditation, going out and doing nature walks. So a lot of the things that were very much so outside of my comfort zone were the things that I started to do. Because if you are unhappy with areas of your life, you have to do something that is different. You have to do something that creates a bit of discomfort. And for me, where I was at the time, it was a motivator, and it pushed me in the opposite direction. Because when you're experiencing the same thing over and over and over again, you can't expect to think the same and do the same, but have different results. And so I didn't know that consciously at the time, but I just knew that I wanted to make some changes. And so that's what I've done. And it's been amazing. It's been ups, it's been downs, but all I know is that it's been moving in the direction that I do want it to move in. And it's hard, but the way I was living was also hard. So very happy with where I am and being able to utilize my experiences and my own journey to connect with like-minded individuals like yourself, where I now create spaces, facilitate wānanga, seminars, events, and also host conversations such as this. So to see your growth, to see what it is that you've been able to do in the short amount of time that we've been connected, it's just a testament to, I guess, everything that I have shared. But for you to be able to do it in your own way now, it's just a cool thing to see. Because that's buzz. It's like you make changes in your life, but in you making your own changes, you start to positively impact those who are interested in a similar path, and that's how we have connected. So yeah, it's just a cool buzz to be here with you, Chels.
Yeah, I really was thinking about that before we jumped on, and I was really thinking about just where I was when we first ever had a conversation like this, like how old was Remy? So it was about 3 years ago now. And I also recently saw a photo of myself from about 3 years ago. And it is one of those things where you sort of look at that photo or you think about those moments and you're like, shit, that 3 years has gone by so fast. But the choice that I made to actually reach out to you and then continue on that path and stay consistent. Every Wednesday in Te Ara Hou, I'll just plug that there, to be able to stay consistent and just know that me putting that effort in to change is what has got me here. And that's exactly why, like, I wanted to start these conversations, because I felt like, okay, I'm ready now. Like, obviously, I'm not completely healed and saved, and like no one, I don't think, ever is, but I'm at a point now where I'm a lot more aware of where I've come from, and I've put in the work over the years. So I feel like now I have the ability to facilitate a conversation like this and just, yeah, have like real conversations about where people are at. So I guess it would be really cool, like, to understand for you and for others that are watching as well, what was it that was sort of like, was there a moment or in time, or was there a couple of moments that you were like, oh shit, okay, now like I need to do something. I don't know what that something is, but I need to change something. Like, was there a moment that you can remember?
Yeah, there was a moment, and I vividly remember it. It's like there was like a thought within my mind, and it was around growth. It was very much so, if I want to grow, then I have to test my comfort zones. And it was coming off the back of a relationship breakup. And it was also coming off the back of traveling around Southeast Asia and Europe for 6 months. And I knew in that time that I wanted to come home and move home and work with young people and do speaking and doing the things that I'm doing now, essentially. But at that time, it felt like it was so far away from where I was. And me, it was about minimizing that gap.
Mm.
And I just remember just the belief, the confidence, the clarity, and the vision that I had. And it was like, yo, there was unwavering confidence in what I was about to do. And that was the moment that it all just like came together for me, because coming off the back of a breakup is never easy. It's so hard because a lot of your identity is tied up within that individual, within the relationship. You lose parts of yourself, you gain um, different parts of you. And so going through the separation of that and all of the emotions that are entangled within it all, you're sad, you're happy, you're angry, you've got resentment, you're guilty, all of these different things are just present when you're going through a separation. And for me, my coping mechanism was running. I just ran from problems, I ran from things. And at this time, I ran and just went traveling with a good friend. And there was so much healing within that experience, because it was something that I always wanted to do. And me being able to do it and doing it with one of my best friends and seeing parts of the world, I was able to feel like I got a different sense of education, because it shaped perspective. Learning things like compassion, learning things like gratitude became very real when you're in these countries and you're seeing how other people live. And in that OE, I was reading, I was listening to audios and reading different books all around personal development. My friend that I was with, he was very much so he's always been like ahead of his time. Like, he was doing things way before anyone else was. He was talking about things before anyone else was, but he'll talk about it in a way that um, no one else knew, but he tried to break things down. And I just so happened to be in a season of wanting to better understand things. And so being around someone like him doing what I was doing is where the confidence and the belief, I guess, fostered within myself to actually make something of myself and really live in the way that I wanted to live. And so that was the moment for me, was being in a lower part of my life. Then what it looked like, it was like I was running, but it was also doing something that I really wanted to do. And in that came a lot of healing, in that came a lot of growth, and also the belief and confidence within myself.
Yeah. There's two things with what you were just talking about. And the first thing for me that I really resonated with was the running, because there was a moment for me when I was younger and I had left a relationship, and it was my first ever like proper, I think it was about 3 years or something like that. And I ran over to Australia from New Zealand. I wanted to go further, like I wanted to go UK or whatever, but I just knew I'd get homesick. I was like, oh, that's scary for me, but I'll go to Perth because that's like the furthest away on a flight, but it's still just in Australia. And that's where I ran to. And there was so much learning in that. Like I messed up so much while I was over there. I think I only lasted like 6 months because I was like, oh, I need to come home now. This is not what I actually want to be doing. And I did recognize that I was running away from what I hadn't dealt with back here. But I was also young. Like I was, think about 20 or something like that. And I ended up getting quite overwhelmed and just, yeah, really homesick while I was over there. And I actually had already booked my flight to come back for my 21st just for a couple of weeks. But actually, I quit my job while I was over there. And then I came back to New Zealand on that flight, and when it was time to go back home, I just never went back to Perth. I just never went back. I just dealt with the fact that I just spent $1,000 on a ticket to come back to New Zealand, that was meant to be returned. But yeah, I was really happy with that decision. And I guess running for some people, it's not always the best thing, but there's so much lessons and growth that do come from it. Like I left home for 6 months out of my comfort zone. Like that in itself is crazy, but also like really, it was the start of that change and that shift in myself. And you sort of know when you have changed or shifted or, starting on that journey, because so many people said to me like, oh, you're so different, or what's wrong with you, and stuff like that. And even the partner that I was with when I came back to New Zealand, he actually wanted to get back. Well, there was like a little moment where he wanted to sort of get back with me, and I was like, oh no, like that's not what I need. And it was just, it felt good within myself to know that I'd done that. Like I had healed from that, and I had moved past all of that trauma, not straight away, but I was on that journey. And then the second thing that you were mentioning was just the environment that you were in, and the people that you were around when you were overseas. I feel plays a big part in where you are and like changing and shifting within your life. Because if you're obviously staying with the same people and you're not shifting around, and you're not finding other people that you align with more, or that on a different journey than what your current friend or family situation is like, I feel like sometimes that can just keep you stuck. It's obviously you allowing that, but sometimes we don't realize. We think that if we have friends or people that we're around, and if they're on a path of destruction or whatever it is for them, we feel like we have to stay around them because we've been friends with them for so many years. But I think it is what you're mentioning, like finding those people that potentially are a little bit ahead of you, so that you have something to like see and look for. And that's why for me, when I joined Ara Hou, I was able to see where you were. And as much as at the beginning I was comparing myself to you and others that were in that space, it was actually once I got over that side of it, I actually realized, well, like this is something I can work towards. This is something that I can grow like within. And like 3 years later, those little steps that I took over time, like now I'm here having a conversation with you that I just would not have had 3 years ago. So it is just, and now I feel like I'm sort of on that like even playing field with people within Te Ara Hou, and I don't feel like I'm comparing myself to any of them, because everyone is on their own journey, and it is sort of, as long as you're aligning with yourself with people that actually are going to support you and empower you to move forward positively rather than holding you back. So that's, I feel like there's always the one person or the one, being that is that, or just in conversations that I've had, that has just supported myself or you or just others to keep moving forward. So I do thank you for that. Just wanted to say, like, I'm really grateful for you putting yourself out there and going first on, social media and your growth journey. And that, like, obviously has created an impact on so many other people, more than probably that are even in Te Ara Hou. Like, so you're doing amazing. um, I decided that when I created this, I wanted to have these kind of conversations, but I also wanted to have three questions that I ask each of the people that I bring through. So is it all good if I ask you three? Um, so the first one is, what is one thing you would say to your younger self now that you're where you are now?
One question that I would say to my one question or one thing that I would say.
One thing that you would say to your younger self.
Um, that would be to get to know yourself, because what I realize now where I am to where I was, there was a big part of me that was in a space of like people pleasing. And I never really, despite my persona at the time, never really felt confident within myself, because I had a lot of friends, but I also felt incredibly lonely at the same time. And I had friends at the school that I was at, but I was able to connect with so many different people. And that's been like a real gift of mine, I suppose, is being able to connect with others. But in that time, there was just me trying to, whether I definitely didn't know it, but there was a void there that I just was trying to fill. And so for me, just being able to say that to my younger self is like, bro, you're all good, bro. Just get to know who you are. Just sit with yourself, be within that space. Then I think I would have been able to, pave a different route. But I just believe there's no accidents, and it's such a cliche thing to say, but you can't undo the past. And that's why that saying is always said, you can't undo the past. But when you're able to reflect and see certain areas that you would have changed or that you would have done differently, that gives us the opportunity right now in this moment to make those changes, right? Because a lot of people may be in a space where they think that that's just the way I am. That's just the way that I am. And I just believe that's a cop out, but I understand where it comes from. It comes from conditioning. It comes from us only knowing ourselves to be a certain way. And although there is these other pathways that are in front of each and every person, the capacity within each person isn't necessarily there to take that leap, to take that different route, to be a different person. So although you don't have the capacity, it's about building that capacity. And that's what I really enjoy about this journey, is that we we are all in situations that we can see could be better. And we are the common denominator between every part of our lives. And we are able to alter, we are able to change, we are able to think differently, we are able to improve our language, we are able to change our environments, we are able to go out and meet new people. But we block ourselves in all of these different areas because why? That's just the way that I am. And so we use these statements to justify where we are, despite us being unhappy. And so for me, looking at that, one thing that I would say to myself as a younger self, I say that to myself now, and it's about, okay, how can I take that advice? How can I really lean into that wisdom? How can I really look to embody the person that I know myself to be, that I see myself to be, and look at this outer world in a way to really nurture that version of myself.
That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing it quite in depth, because I didn't want to just ask the question and someone just say, "Oh, this is what I'd say." Like, I love hearing the why, the reason, like where it comes from. So thank you for sharing that. What is one thing that you are so proud of yourself for?
One thing that I am proud of myself for, I am proud of the effort that I put into things that I care about. And me having that ability to step into fear or into courage, I should say, even when I am uncertain of where that path is going. I just need one thought within my mind or image that it's going to work out, or that the end product or whatever it may be, or the outcome of what I'm working towards, if that is clear, the courage is present, which gives me the ability to step in, to create, to have new experiences, to be around other people, is because that there inspires me enough to be able to do it. So I'm proud that I just have that. And as I said, it's always been there for me as a young person. But as I've grown into this space, I've been able to really step into that as being a strength, and me just honoring that strength. And so I'm proud of that. And yeah, it just feels good to be able to have that. But the other thing that comes with it is what I've noticed is I have that courage at the start. And then when there's turbulence, or when there's challenges, or when there's uncertainty, I'm even more proud that I have people around me to support me in those moments, because it's so challenging at times, and I can get overwhelmed. I can get in these spaces where I just don't know what to do. And people like my wife, Hinepania, she's been clutch at times when I just feel overwhelmed and I've gone out to set these things and it's just not working out. And she comes in and she problem solves. Or I've got these other different connections who have done what I'm trying to do. And they give me, I guess, ways to manage the stresses that are happening at that time. So those are the things that I'm proud of, is one, having that within me to step into courage to face fears, but then also proud of the people that I've been able to surround myself with to further support me in those pursuits.
Yeah. Is there something that you could say to someone who potentially feels like they when they're in those turbulent moments, maybe it's quite regularly, like each week, and they don't feel like there's anyone that they can reach out to? Like, what's some sort of advice that you could potentially give to people that know they might need to reach out or would want to reach out, but maybe are too scared or feel like just no one's there?
First thing that I'd say is there's always someone there.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that you have to seek it as well. You can't just expect to be stuck in your room or stuck by yourself and just attract the right people into your life to support you when you need. It's about you stepping into spaces and things like coming into Te Ara Hou, where you're not on your own. You're joining a group or you're joining an online course where you're going to be around people who, at the very minimum, have one thing in common with you, and that's wanting to improve your life in some shape, way, or form. You might have a skill or an interest that you like. There are online courses, there are groups that have been formed based around the things that you're interested in. So if you can just step over that one line to then be around those kinds of people, then you've got a support network, you've got a support system there for you. The other thing is being able to sit with yourself, to move through the sense of overwhelm, the sense of anxiety, by breathing. right? Like exercises and practices such as meditation or conscious breathing or going out for a nature walk or, putting yourself in the environment. Those kinds of practices are very, very helpful to regulate yourself, right? Because overwhelm, stress, all of those kinds of things, it's all happening within the mind. They trigger the emotions within you. And so it's about how can you detach from the mind. In the moment, it might be very difficult, but as time passes or as you start to breathe, as you start to reach out, you'll find the moments to be able to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And I can definitely vouch for that. Like I was there. I was the, and as so many other people have been too, I was there in that overwhelm. And then, like I've said throughout this whole thing, that one step into just reaching out to you as an example and just taking that leap of faith, really, to just be like, I don't know what this is, but I'll try it. And it's definitely something that has helped me to get through that. Just being a part of a group where you recognize that everyone has got something that's happening for them, but having that group of people, like you've said, like-minded, who aren't going to shut you down or put you down for expressing how you feel or thinking the way you do, or whatever. They're just there as that support network, to reach out to. So I know this is my tea talk, but I will 100% for the rest of my life shout out Raniera and Te Ara Hou. So if you're watching this and you're wanting to be a part of Te Ara Hou, I will put the link in the description below so that you can go and check that out and see if it's for you, which it's for everybody, but in your own time. And the last question I have, because we've obviously had like a really beautiful kōrero that is maybe a little bit heavy sometimes for some people, but really needed. It's a little bit of like a funny one, a tricky one. So, what is your favorite ice cream?
My favorite ice cream. If I was just to have the ice cream on a cone,
Yeah.
it'll have to be something like cookies and cream or a rocky road or chocolate hazelnut, something along those lines. But my all-time favorite dessert is a sticky date pudding. I really, really enjoy like warm cakes with a syrup or like a sauce.
Yeah.
So that could be like a chocolate cake or self-saucing pudding with vanilla ice cream. Has to be vanilla. It
Yeah.
can't be flavored.
Nah.
And so that's my all-time.
And talking about desserts, it reminds me of you always post about desserts. They look like, oh my God.
They on and they're going to be at the next wānanga. I've already hit up my mate to do some because I worked.
So great.
I done a day and night shift with him to help him out with the shop, and he was going to give me some money. I was like, nah, bro, I don't want any of your money, but you can make up some desserts for my next wānanga.
So it's in Whakatane, so let's just shout them out. If you're in Whakatane, there's drip desserts. They look delicious. I haven't tried them, but they always look so yum. I'm with
Good.
on the like sticky sauce pudding with it has to be vanilla ice cream, or if that's not there, then cream. Like, but it has to be that
Mm.
like balancing flavor, I guess, to balance.
We have
Um,
to tell Tor. We have to tell him to make us a self-sourcing
I
pudding or something for dessert.
Yeah. So I wanted to say thank you so much for coming on here and sharing all of your wisdom and just having this conversation with me and just showing everybody else that this type of conversations where it's at and where we all as a collective are going to grow and we're going to just flourish within our lives and within ourselves. So yeah, I'm really grateful to have you on here and thank you so much for having a yarn and having my cup of tea with me.
No, thank you so much, Chelsea. It's been awesome to be in this space with you and very, very proud of everything that you've been able to achieve over the years. More so last year. I know last year was just massive for you, and it reminds me of, I guess, a quoted or something that I've been hearing even this morning, is that it's hard for us to see change even though we feel like they were putting in the effort in the moment, right? We can't see it. It's not happening, even though we know internally, man, we're doing all of these things, we're showing up, I'm learning all this knowledge, but why hasn't anything changed in my life? But you're such a prime example of just showing up, showing up, showing up, and then in the light of day, things happen, right? And that's why I say last year was huge for you. You made some massive connections between yourself and the identity that you had been carrying, but disassociating yourself from certain parts of yourself and then moving into, nah, well, this is who I am. And that's been beautiful to witness, which has given you the confidence to step into things like your business, stepping into creating passion projects like, Tea Talks. And it's just awesome for me to bear witness to all of that. And so to your listeners, to people who've been attracted to your journey, I just want to encourage your listeners as well that what is ahead is determined by what we do now. And it's about bringing ourselves into this moment and making the decisions and taking the action that your future self would be proud of. And that right there is where the inspiration or the sense of belief comes from. Whereas if you're making decisions based on the past self, you're only going to recreate circumstances that you've already had, which creates a cycle, which creates the conditioning. And so the way to break free from that is about looking at where you want to go, getting clarity on that, putting yourself in the environments around those people, whether it is an online course, whether it is Ara Hou, whether it is listening to podcasts. And it's about doing it so consistent and being obsessed about that. And the way that it makes you feel is your indication that you're going in the right direction. And you just never know, not when that moment is going to happen where you feel the shift, but also once you make that shift, the impact that it's going to have not only on your life, but for people around you and for people you might not necessarily know. People who are listening to this, you may have received something from my corridor. I might never ever meet you or know you, but that's it's just the result of you shining your light. So be the sun in your own life and be the main character in your life and look to write the movie or the story in the way that would make you proud. And so proud of you, Charles, and just an awesome, awesome individual you are.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Comment one takeaway below and share on your social media. Don't forget to tag me. Love you.